My girlfriend and I got into an argument after a round of golf. How do I convince her I wasn't being malicious? For some background, I, 31 male, have recently started dating a girl, 26 female, that I like a lot. Like, say, 4 months. Both of us are really close to our families and spend a lot of time with them, so it was basically impossible for our families not to meet pretty early. Like, I watch my niece 2 days a week, and my mum does the other days and helps out on my days. Our families are pretty similar, standard, boring, suburban Midwestern families, and everyone gets along. So to the story. My girlfriend and her dad invited my dad and I to go golfing with them. It's been crazy nice where I live, and courses are open right now when they're usually closed for the winter, and they wanted to take advantage. They knew that we both played golf, and the two of them were both very into golf. Like her high school and college trophies showing around their parents' house. It's really sweet. Golf is pretty much their main hobby. So here's some more info about me. I do not look like I golf. At all. I am covered in tattoos, I have long hair, my style is more punk than country club. I also am really good at golf. I personally enjoy the activities surrounding golf more than actually playing golf itself though. I like drinking a few beers and walking the course with friends more than practicing golf. I've done enough practice for 10 lifetimes, I promise you. My grandpa on dad's side started a private golf club in the 50s. My grandpa on my mum's side was a golf coach. My dad played at a top university and is currently a top 50 senior golfer in the world. I have spent more time on a golf course than should be accepted by society. Literally, my daycare growing up during summer was just to drop me off at the club until dad was done with work. So about 9 hours a day, 36 holes, 7 days a week, all summer. By the time high school came around, it felt more like torture than a hobby or a leisure activity, so I stopped playing. But once you learn something so thoroughly and so young, it doesn't go away. Anyway, I've told my girlfriend my thoughts on golf before and that I mostly like the exercise, being outside and cold beverages with friends, but I would still love to go with her anytime. I think this must have translated into, I'm not very good at golf for her or something. Even before the first hole was over, I could tell something was up. Girlfriend wasn't ignoring me, but she was definitely more distant. I just thought maybe she likes to focus more on the golf than the social aspects during a round, and that's fine. Going into this, I saw today as an opportunity to bond with her dad, and not really about us, if that makes sense. So I just gave her space and did my best to get to know the guy, and we do get to know each other better, and I think we have a pretty great round. Well, the distance continued until we got to my house and she exploded at me. We haven't really had a fight before, and she is not quick to anger. She was really mad and saying things like, why would I lie to her about something so dumb, and you were trying to make me look stupid and make her family look bad, etc., etc. I was flabbergasted. I mean, first fights are interesting to navigate, but this was something else. She eventually left as she needed to cool off, but she's been distant and curt with me since. That was Sunday. During our fight, I was just so caught off guard that I didn't really say much, which I don't think helped. We've been kinda just ignoring the situation, which is definitely not working at all. I really like her, and I want to move past this. Other than this fight, she's been so sweet and kind and loving. She's the best. I'm gonna go talk to her later tonight about this, but I'm not really sure what to say. How do I convince her that I wasn't hiding my golf ability to be malicious or mean, I just don't like golf? It just sounds so ridiculous and dumb reading over this to me, but I don't want to mess this up. In the comments, Sugar Glitter Kiss says, OP, if you had mentioned a quarter as much to your girlfriend as you wrote in your post, you wouldn't be in this position. How could none of your family's relationships with golf not have come up once with a girl who has golf trophies all over her house? That's insane. How embarrassing for her to be in the dark about that in front of her family. If this isn't a shitpost, then tell her what you told us and apologize for being clueless. Edit to add, it's also insane that she said that you were trying to make her family look bad. OP replies, Most of this was over 20 years ago. It just isn't who I am today. She knows my dad played in the US and British Senior AM. I guess I just don't talk about myself or my past that much. Like, hey, by the way, I'm a +2 handicap, just isn't a conversation that I would have. Sugar Glitter Kiss replies, isn't a conversation I would have? It should be when you date a golfer. Very bizarre thing not to mention that you played enough in the past to be good. Not to mention it was a big part of your life. It's not like you have to announce your handicap as a conversation opener. OP replies, she knew that I was on the golf team when I was in the 7th grade, which kind of insinuates I'm good. She knows my dad and brother are both extremely good. Yeah, I don't know. The more I'm talking with people on here, I'm thinking I should have talked about it earlier, but golf is such a joy in her life. And for me, it was not the same. So I would just kind of talk about her experience with golf, or bring up parallels from my brother's and dad experience. Both play at an extremely high amateur level, and keep conversations light. I don't know. Just for her to be talking about how much she loved it, I just didn't want to respond with, oh yeah, I had more conversations with the waitresses at my club than my parents during summer. I'm a stick, by the way. Through no autonomy of my own, my swing is fucking gorgeous. Like, I obviously know that's an extreme, but it's kinda hard to start that conversation without going all the way through it. And while 4 months is a long time, I don't know if we're quite at that stage of the relationship. Green-Eyed Wench says, is it usual for someone to still be good at it after 20 years of not practicing? I wouldn't think that would be the case in most sports, but I admittedly know nothing about golf. OP replies, so golf is kinda weird. It's pretty much strictly a skill sport. Like, sure, if you're stronger and more athletic, you can probably get more out of your swing, but if you're able to move somewhat freely, you can play golf. So basically, I already have all the skills in the form of muscle memory. I mean, knowledge too. My grandpa was a golf coach. I know golf. So when I quit, was right before puberty basically. For golfers, sometimes there's a small window where if you play a lot, you're actually a little better before puberty than during. The mistakes you make are smaller because you aren't hitting the ball as far. It's basically playing for pars and getting them almost every time, and occasionally you have a shot at a birdie on some of the shorter holes. You are learning how to score. You won't have great shots that save you, you have to be incredibly consistent. After puberty though, you play for birdies. Higher risk, higher reward. So I was basically a scratch golfer before puberty. For a while after, I was a little worse than that, but not much, and then when I was 18ish and got better again, as I got more used to my body and started playing at about a +2. Sorry, I just wanted to hear OP talk about golf. He seems very invested in that world. And if he was to ask me personally, what did I do wrong here? What should I have done? I'd say, what you did wrong was not be more transparent about your past with golfing, just how good you and your family are at golf, and preparing her for that meetup, because yeah, I can see why that would be so confronting and odd for her to have these two absolute champions just smashing it out when it seemed like before you weren't really that interested in it. And I guess what you should have done, I guess after the fact, would be like, let's sit down and talk about this. I don't quite understand where these feelings are coming from. Could you please, tell me how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, and I'll address your points. I realize I messed up here. Let's make this right. It didn't exactly sound like you did that. It sounded like you had an argument and a fight without kind of trying to resolve it and talk to each other. And I'm guessing from the way that it's worded on her part, maybe she was unwilling to have that conversation and she kind of wanted to vent and yell at you. And if that is the case, then I understand that. Some conflict resolution has to happen now, though, from this point forward. Like, this doesn't seem healthy to stay in this limbo that you're in. And now, on to the update. So last night, we talked about what had happened. My part in not really telling her about my history with golf, and her reaction to it. She started crying and apologizing immediately, which kind of surprised me because I've never seen her cry before and explained things from her end. So on the way to the course, She rode with her dad there and me home. Her dad and her had a bet. What do you think he's gonna shoot? She started the bet, so she decided the line, and he got to pick over or under. The stakes? Cleaning up the winter poop from their dogs after the snow thaws. Pretty high stakes. So she said 85, and he said, easiest under of my life. Get your poop scoop ready. They do not, in fact, have a poop scoop. So I guess his response, paired along with my play, had been bothering her all day, but he didn't say anything about it. So it was kinda just brewing all day. But she was positive that her dad knew that I was a good golfer and that she did not. So she didn't know if I was just doing this to help her dad not to have to clean up the poop, or if she was just missing something obvious that would have clued her in. Because why would her dad know that about me, but not her? She just felt like everyone else was in on it, and she was being made into a fool for no reason. Well, then the explosion happened. She said she had just let her imagination get the best of her, and that she wasn't even being rational, and she knows that. She apologized for all of that. Afterwards, she called her dad, and he kinda realized he'd fucked up and told her how he knew about me. So, she has an older brother 4 years older than me, who also happened to play golf. The reason he remembered me even close to 20 years later? He got into a fight with my grandpa at a JPGA tournament. Not like fist fight, but a pretty damn heated argument. Which, yeah, that makes sense because that would happen quite often. Like seriously, 1 out of 4 events I played in. I was 13 and still playing competitively, and her brother was 17 and pretty good. I would play in the 14 to 17-year-old division because the 10 to 13 division had different rules that weren't golf, quote-unquote. Circle 10s if you score too high, just small changes to keep the pace of play going for worse players. Anyway, her brother was in my group and I wasn't playing that great, and my grandpa was riding me the whole time. My brother was in college at the time and playing in the biggest amateur events in the country, which is a huge time commitment. My parents would go and watch these, so I would stay with my grandparents, so grandpa would take me to things like this. Anyway, I guess my grandpa was laying into me in front of everyone, and her dad just lost it. So they got into a huge shouting match. He wasn't sure that I was that kid right away, but after we were friends on Facebook, he did some sleuthing and found a pic of my whole family, and sure enough, there was my grandpa. After hearing this, my girlfriend was kind of devastated. Embarrassed, sad for me, just generally distraught. But she didn't know what to say and how to apologize correctly because it was clear that I didn't really want to talk about that point of my life yet, so she just tried to ignore it, but it made her come across as distant. So, we just talked about it all. About how I eventually hated golf back then, but she always talked about the good times that she had with her family playing it growing up, and I didn't want to tint those memories with my experiences. We hugged, cried, and laughed. Called in sick today because it took up most of the night, but I think we're in a great spot. Her dad felt really bad, as he didn't realize how much it actually bothered my girlfriend originally, and he kind of belatedly realized that, while it was just a stupid and embarrassing, yet very memorable interaction for him, not many times do you have a fight at a kid's golf event with an 80-plus-year-old man. For me, that was kind of a microcosm of my life at the time. Like, hey kid, remember that time when you were verbally abused publicly, and then someone stood up for you, and it started a huge fight? Man, what silly times. Isn't a convo he was willing to jump into, so he just kinda kept it to himself, and he didn't think his daughter would make a connection with the bet. He thought he would just get some free yard work and get off scotch-free. So, all is well, and the 3 of us are cleaning up poop this weekend. I did thank him for sticking up for me back then, and it actually meant a lot to me at the time when people would do that. He just asked that if we have kids one day, maybe keep Grandpa away from the sporting events. In the comments, Gwynasson says, yeah, that update with the story of being A, left behind by the parents every time his brother had a competitive tournament, which I'm guessing was almost every weekend, and B, getting yelled at by your grandpa, I'm assuming more than just that one time, it's very understandable that he got sick of golf and also didn't want to talk about it or himself in regards to golf with many people. Still though, good lesson for him and her. Just talk with each other. Communication prevents many unnecessary arguments. Rain MH11 says, I'm kinda surprised he bounced back enough to date someone that in love with golf. It said a lot about how well he adjusted to love a girl that in love with golf. Recognizing her passion even though his own experience was such shit, and not letting it ruin it for her said so much about his growth as a person. Like, it's so goddamn sweet. Absolutely right. I would guess there's a lot of people that have complete aversion to things like golf in this experience, that they would prefer just not to date someone that is that closely tied in with golf, that would be a deal breaker for them to avoid any upsets like what potentially happened here or what did happen here. I personally commend OP for their personal growth in that they were able to move past this, communicate in a healthy way, and not lose their mind over something that at the end of the day I think is a bit of a nothing burger. Like, yes, it's your past, there's a lot of scars there's a lot of history, but that's not who you are anymore. And that really shows in the way that OP handled this situation. They are not that traumatized kid who's being yelled at by their grandpa and abandoned by their parents every weekend. OP is able to communicate openly and freely about everything that happened back then and shore up any hurt feelings that their past and obfuscation of details about their past caused his partner. And I really like that. Although with Gwynassen's comment, still good lesson for him and her, just talk with each other, communication prevents many unnecessary arguments. My only real gripe here was that communication was supposed to be coming from the girlfriend straight away. I don't think there was anything OP could have done in this instance, because I'm on OP's side. That's a lot of heavy baggage that you don't really want to dump on someone 4 months in. Because how is that going to shape the relationship when you're still in the honeymoon phase? It's such an early point. You like this person. You want to stick it out with this person. I'm not going to trauma dump on you. I don't think that would be fair to her, and I don't think it's fair to him. So it was a rock and a hard place. I don't think OP had much of a choice. I'm glad she did communicate, but hopefully this doesn't become a pattern going forward. Hopefully she learns from this. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you for the story, OP. It was lovely. Our next post is by user HovercraftJust5145, and it's titled, Am I the asshole for not making my son give rides to his stepsister to and from school? I, 45 male, share 3 kids with my ex, 16 male, 14 male, and 11 female. We divorced 10 years ago. My ex D remarried 8 years ago and has another bio daughter, 7 female, and a stepdaughter, 14 female. My kids have never really gotten along with their stepsister. She pretty much gets whatever she wants. She's always had her own room and bathroom at their mum's house. My daughter had to share with her brothers. She does not do chores and expects my kids to do whatever she asks them to do. Things have been really bad the last 2 years, and a little over a year ago, my oldest came to live with me full-time. A few months later, his brother followed. My oldest turned 16 back in December. I bought a car for him. My only request was that he would take his brother and sister, my kids, to school, which he agreed to do. My sons and their stepsister go to the same school. Not long after I got him the car, Dee started asking that my son take his stepsister to and from school. My ex's neighborhood is on the route to school from my house. He refused. My ex tried to make me make him do it, but I refused. Well, last month, we got a winter storm come in. The first round was not supposed to be bad, so there was school, but quickly the weather got worse than predicted, so the school let out early. My sons were walking to the car with a friend to head to my house. Their stepsister was standing near the car with a friend and was on her phone. She told my son, "Mum says she cannot come get us, so we need to ride with you." My son refused. She handed my son the phone, and my ex was on the line. She demanded that my son give his stepsister and her friend a ride. She was across town getting groceries before the storm got worse. He refused. His stepsister started yelling at him. He ignored her, and they got in the car to leave. She and her friend got in front of the car so he couldn't move. He honked his horn and told them to get the fuck out of the way. They eventually did, and my son left her and her friend at the school. A teacher saw the incident, so we were called by the administration about it. We told them what happened. My sons were not in trouble, but they said, "We need to work out this family conflict." Afterwards, my ex and her husband tried to talk to me and blamed me. I told them, "It isn't my fault y'all raised an entitled brat who no one likes. Y'all have enabled her behavior for years. I've tried to get y'all to address it, but I'm done. Until you stop being a worthless mother and stepdad, I don't want to hear shit from either one of you. D, your own sons despise you. That is all on you." And then we left. I've not spoken to my ex since. I do feel bad for my daughter because tensions have been high at my ex's house and she is there half the time. Am I the asshole? In the comments, when asked did OP's ex contribute to pay for their son's car, OP says, "My ex did not pay for the car or contribute to it in any way. She does not pay insurance on it or put gas in it. My son has not lived with her in over a year. She does not get to tell my son what to do with that car, period. This is not my ex's car. She does not get to say who can or cannot ride in it. I didn't even know the stepsister's friend who also wanted to ride. My son gets to decide who he trusts to be in a car that he is driving, period. The car is legally mine. It is in my name." OP responds to comments on his son being an asshole for leaving the stepsister and her friends stranded in a snowstorm. School was open and students were directed to wait in the cafeteria until their ride showed up, if they didn't have a car or ride already. I believe she had to wait like 90 minutes for my ex to get there, but the school was open with some teachers and administrators staying until all the kids were picked up. OP explains the setup regarding why his sons and daughters shared a room together at their mother's house while the stepsister had her own space. Here was the setup when my boys lived there. 1. Master bedroom was where my ex and her husband slept. 2. There is a mother-in-law suite with an ensuite bathroom. Stepsister had that. 3. My kids shared room and bathroom. 4. The youngest slept in a little area connected to the master bedroom and used the master bathroom. Now, without my sons there, 1. Stepsister had own bedroom and bathroom. 2. Stepsister has ensuite still. Had that. 3. My daughter and younger daughter share room and bathroom. I'm beginning to see that there is a bit of a golden child dynamic going on here. And I'm with you on this one, OP. Not your kid, not her car, not her rules. That child already has people that are going to be doing those things for her regardless. They should just stick to that plan and not try to shoehorn your son into doing things that he doesn't want to do and shouldn't be forced to do. To me, this just reads like unreasonable people asking unreasonable things from reasonable people. I think that you and your son are very much reasonable, and they refuse to take no for an answer. Well, that's not how life works. You get given a no, and you accept it. If they continue to be unwilling to accept that, I think you got to start implementing some consequences for their ridiculous actions. And now, onto the update. Answers to common questions. 1. It looks like, at least until June 5th, it would be illegal for my son to take his stepsister and her friend home. 2. I'm not going for full custody for my daughter because she is highly attached to her little sister and would be sad not to see her every other week. But I take my daughter to and from school every day. It's across the street from my office. While things are tense at my ex's, it does not appear that she is being treated any differently than before. 3. There are no buses available for my kids, and their stepsister is there on an inter-district transfer. So, for the proper update. A little over a week ago, my ex reached out to try and see what we could compromise on about the situation. I told her there was nothing to compromise about. I explained that until June, he cannot legally take her anyways. I do not want her in the car, and our son does not want her in the car. My ex simply said that it's not doable for her to take her or her dad to take her to school every day. If our son could take her on Tuesdays, they could do the other days. I told her no. This Tuesday, their stepsister demanded a ride. My son told her no, and she pushed him. A teacher saw it, and she is facing possible in-school suspension. Disciplinary issues like this could compromise her inter-district transfer. That is the update. In the comments, OP explains about his state's laws about new drivers, considering his son is 16 years old, and who he can take in his car. OP says, "Our law is a little different. He can take one passenger or unlimited number of passengers as long as they're in the same household. The law in our state is, if someone 21 or older isn't in the car, then until 16 and a half, he can have one passenger or anyone who is a member of your household. If it was only his stepsister in the car, he could drive her. But obviously he also has his brother with him, and sometimes his sister, so he cannot drive her then. It has nothing to do with the age of the passengers. He generally did not drive friends around. On this occasion, he did drive a friend around, which was illegal. He will not be doing that until June. On June 5th, he is 16 and a half and the restriction is lifted. I do not see it as dying on a hill. The school is 30 minutes from my house. I got the car specifically for school to make my life more convenient. It makes absolutely no sense to not use the car for school." When asked how was the stepsister getting to school prior to OP's son getting his car, OP says, "My ex was taking her. My ex's husband recently had to switch jobs and took a pay cut. My ex does shift work. She's on day shift right now. She wants to switch to afternoon shift because it pays more. If she switches, she cannot pick her up. Most days her husband can run, pick her up, then take her back to work, but apparently they have a weekly team meeting on Tuesdays that would prevent that. This is what she's told me. I have not verified any of it." And now, onto the second update. For some background, on June 5th, my son will be 16 and a half. Because he took driver's ed at that time, there will be no restrictions on the number of passengers he can transport. There is no bus available due to the school being in a different district. Public transport is absolutely terrible where we are, both in terms of safety and time. So, second update. Contrary to popular belief, my son's car was not keyed or anything like that. After the incident in the update, my sons and their stepsister ignored each other at school. Since that incident, my ex has tried to act sweet and kind when we have interacted. All involved schools let out last week for summer. On Monday, I had a meeting run long and I couldn't drop my daughter off at my ex's as I typically do. So I had my son do the drop-off for me. When he got there, my ex asked to talk to him for a minute. She asked if she pays him, if he would agree to take his stepsister to and from school starting in the fall. As mentioned in my comments, my ex had switched shifts so she cannot pick up her daughter from school. Her husband typically has to leave work to get his daughter from the school, and that's what's happened most days. But it's starting to cause issues at his job. My son told her no and came home. That night, she calls me and asked if I would be interested in doing joint family therapy with her and all 3 of our kids. I told her that before that can happen, she, her husband, and her stepdaughter need to make a full and complete apology to our kids for their treatment over the years. She said, "I do not know if I can make that happen." I told her, "Well, that's what needs to happen before I would consider your proposal. My kids and I already do individual therapy." This morning, she forwarded me some texts from one of her friends who was a teacher at the high school that my ex's stepdaughter would have to attend if she switches schools. She was telling my ex that there are only a few spots left in the few honors/AP courses that sophomores can take. So if the stepdaughter wants to be in those classes, she needs to enroll in the school now. So my ex then said, "I am desperate. I want her to stay where she is at. That is only possible if our oldest son agrees to take her. But if I need to switch schools for her, I need to know now." I responded, "This ain't got shit to do with our kids, and the fact that you are bending yourself into pretzels for stepdaughter is the problem because you do not do that shit for our kids. Do not contact me unless it is about our kids." That is the update. In the comments, maybe you already covered this, But where the hell is the stepsister's mother? Why isn't this issue being handled between her bio parents? No one in your household is the asshole and hasn't been from the beginning. OP says her mum is long gone. Don't know all the details. She calls my ex mum. Downvoted commenter says, TLDR, it sounds like you're using the children in the middle of your battle. Please don't do that. Don't make your son do anything. Maybe ask him. Try to do it in a way that doesn't betray your hatred. Probably too late on that. OP says, my son does not want to give her a ride. I do not in any way make that decision for him. He decided that every time it has been asked of him. When asked, can't the ex ask her stepdaughter's friends' parents to help with carpool? OP says, I don't know about the stepkid's friends, but I will say I looked into carpooling back before my oldest had a car and did not find any options. We live about 20-ish miles from the school, 30 minutes from the school in standard traffic. I ended up just having to take him every day. And when asked what about rideshare in the area, OP says, Ubers are very expensive where we are. I agree with how OP handled this, and I think it was wrong for the stepmother to take on afternoon shifts if she knew that there was a possibility, a very good possibility, that OP was going to say no. He's not going to be doing that. You're not going to force my son to take your daughter to school. That's not happening. I understand why she took on the afternoon shifts, but she did that at the cost of her daughter, her stepdaughter, whatever. These are the consequences of her actions. If she is desperate to make this work, now you get the stepdaughter's friends' parents on board, or you beg and plead for shift work that will allow you to take that child to school. They are your child. They are your responsibility. You're not always going to hear what you want. That's the harsh reality of situations like these. And she might have to swap schools now to somewhere closer as a result of that. It's not fair. But that is the answer that you get in situations like this. Yes, it would be easier if OP's son was willing to do this and make everyone's life easier, but it's not something he wants, and you are not going to force him into doing that. Thank you for the story, OP. Thank you for standing your ground and not giving into undue pressure where you don't need to, make amends, especially if they don't twist themselves into knots for your kids. Why would you do it for theirs? That's a very good point. I agree with you there. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Bye.